photography magazine. Now, granted, it's it's not a fashion magazine. It's specifically a documentary photography magazine, on some level like an art magazine, if you will. And as Danielle pointed out, I'm going to be showing those same photographs in a gallery next month. And but you could also, I could very easily see an art director taking some of those and putting a little copy and text on it and using it as an ad for something, MAC Cosmetics or whatever the hell you want, And so it's, as you're probably aware, a lot of what makes something art is context. So it really comes down to, I'm shooting these photographs for a particular reason. I don't know if I can quite figure that out yet, but where they go from there really has to do with where I can display them. For instance, I've had a number of these Bike Week ones exhibited in art galleries, but I've also had them published in magazines, and as I said, this one was almost going to be a book cover, so it's but I would have no qualms. There was at one point Harley Davidson is opening an art gallery, and one's got to question if it's Harley Davidson. Their whole point is to sell motorcycles. They don't, they're not particularly a museum or art gallery, but they're opening one, and we've been talking about potentially exhibiting some of these at the Harley Museum. And if you think about it in those terms, it's an art gallery context, but it's also a promotional venue / vehicle to sell motorcycles. So, it really grays the areas a little bit, as Danielle pointed out. Those lines in terms of what's commercial. There's so many photographers in the past 10 years that were, one could say they were strictly art photographers, but they're starting to do commercial work. You probably all familiar with the Sopranos ads, where all the cast is sort of sitting around, they're very murky and whatever. Those were shot by Annie Leibovitz, who's a commercial photographer who has been shooting the past 8,000 covers for Vanity Fair. Gregory Crutzen, art photographer. He's at Yale, is that right?
He went to Yale and taught at Yale. I think he's gotten so famous as a photographer now.
He doesn't teach anymore,
teaching.
But he photographed ads for 6 Feet Under, another TV series. Same sort of thing, very moody kind of setup. So the point I'm making is that it used to be a photographer did art photography or commercial photography. Now, thankfully, all that's graying so that you're getting a little crossover. Although primarily you're getting art photographers who are now doing commercial photography. There's a photography organization called Magnum, which was started, I think, in the 30s, 40s, and it was strictly documentary / art photography. There was a key number of people, I think about 8. It's grown now. I'm guessing, I think there's probably about 50 photographers. But they had a mission whereby they were not actually, if they wanted to be a member of Magnum, they had very strict regulations on what work they could and could not accept. They could not actually shoot commercial photography and be a member of Magnum. It was very frustrating for a number of them. They could produce books, they could have work reproduced in magazines, but they could not do an ad for something or other. They could not shoot for it. That has recently changed, just 2-3 years ago. And the photographers are like, oh, finally, now I can make a living. It's sort of, they're not, struggling to sell fine art photographs all the time. They can go out and sell 10 photographs for a lot of money for ads, and then go off and shoot the projects that they want that don't pay anything. So it's thankfully changed a lot, and it is still changing.
So can you talk about, I just want to talk about, we've looked at a lot of painters and installation people and drawing, and obviously, you're coming into the situation, you have a live person, and in your case, they're doing, crazy things. Your painting's not drunk and stripping, most likely. So can you talk about maybe some of the experiences you've had with your subjects? And I know you've worked with a lot of people, and that's very different. It's more of almost a collaboration. That's very different than a lot of the other, we've looked at installation, things that are still, you know, it's how, do you have,
yeah, it's, I mean, being a photographer that shoots, I mean, I hate to be definitive in this way, but I would say maybe 40% of the time I spend taking pictures. The rest is all hustling work or organizing shows or just, I was just in there doing my taxes. And, but then of that time I spend doing photography, I'd say probably about 50% of it is art and 50% of it is commercial work. So in terms of the documentary stuff, I keep it very loose. I sort of, like the bike week and that sort of thing, I'm just me and a couple cameras, a couple lenses, and just there all week, just kind of running around taking pictures. When you start getting into commercial work, I mean, this is a thing that I shot. There's an organization called Musicians on Call, and it's kind of a cool organization. They get musicians to go and play for people who are hospitalized, like, you know, cancer patients and stuff like that. And they also get bigger acts like Seal and Bruce Springsteen and the Black Eyed Peas and that sort of thing to do benefit concerts for hospitals and that sort of stuff. So this was just shot about a month ago, and here I was shooting the concert, and I was also shooting Seal backstage, meeting some of the key people in this organization. And so it varies. Sometimes I have a lot of time with these people, sometimes literally, I mean, I've shot portraits of CEOs or musicians where I'll get there with 2 or 3 assistants, and we'll set up all kinds of lights, and we're there for 2-3 hours, and then the person walks in and says, okay, you got 2 minutes. And we'll have like 3 different scenarios with, you know, okay, bang, 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 okay, have you stand over here, click, 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 okay, over here, thanks very much, goodbye. But then I've had other stuff where, in the same situation, go back to this, where you'll be spending a whole day with somebody. There was this guy, there's a basketball player, former basketball player by the name of Jason Williams, who became sort of infamous a number of years ago because he accidentally shot and killed his chauffeur. Never a good thing to do. Just trying to see if I find a photograph. But I was photographing him before this happened, and basically spent, and it was for the cover of a sports magazine, and we basically spent the whole day at he's got a big farm estate out in New Jersey, and the magazine wanted, say, 2 or 3 different photos, one for the cover and 2 or 3 inside. And we were literally there kind of from noon till 8 o'clock at night. Again, a couple of assistants, me running around shooting all these pictures, that sort of stuff. And they're a little bit commercial, they're kind of nicely lit, and there's somewhere he's in his pool, he's got an indoor basketball court, and him playing basketball, and then some of the other photos that I can't seem to find right now are a little more stagey, sort of him sort of leaning on the veranda out on with his